Yeah, I mean, look, I was raised a Zionist. I was raised second, generation native Floridian, South Florida Zionist. And the brainwashing is real. It is very real, and it's so damaging, and it's so frustrating that I'm seeing people like my congresswoman and people like Greenblatt and these people that are literally still standing there with the same lies, the same propaganda, and the gaslighting, when now we have access to the information. Like, I didn't know, right? Like, I didn't know about the Nakba. We weren't taught that. We were taught Palestinians wasn't a real thing. Oh, we were taught like ridiculous nonsense, Zionist, hateful nonsense. And they're still saying it. I don't understand how they can get away with still saying it when we know that we were lied to.
Yeah. No, I understand that though. But isn't it a beautiful thing to see the courageous and visionary young Jewish brothers and sisters and siblings engaging in such witness? If not now, Jewish Voices for Peace, Jewish Currents. I mean, I'm blessed because a number of them actually are my students as well as my comrades and my colleagues. I'm blessed to be on the member of the board of Jewish Currents. And Brother Daniel May, who's a PhD student at Princeton, he taught with me. We taught courses on Heschel together at Union Seminar. He's one of the founders, if not now. So it's a beautiful thing to see again. We see the wretchedness. And this is Greenblatt and others trying to sustain themselves on that. He might have kids or grandkids said, father and grand, you've been telling that lie for a while. You got me on Santa Claus. I went with that for a little while, but then I discovered, no, mom was kissing you. It was not Santa Claus. Well, you said there was no land. No, there was some people there, and 750,000 got pushed out, and 531 villages. This is a matter of the truth. I'm not talking about you as a human being. I'm not talking about you as a precious person, but you spreading these lies, and we have to stand for truth. And this is true for, any issue. You can imagine in terms of male supremacy, the lies been told about women, and white supremacy, the lies have been told about indigenous people in other places, and black folk and brown folk. But the crucial thing is to try to keep it on the human level, which is to say, all of us have been duped in a variety of different ways. And all of us wake up at certain moments in our lives, you know what I mean? And we attempt to then be better forces for good. But I know, my dear brother, I don't want to. I saw you were trying to get in. I don't want to go on.
No, I'm observing, and I am learning as a professor for many years. You've taught so many people about the truth about what's going on in the world today. And I, as a neutral observer, I step back and I observe how you see how there's members of the Jewish community who have embraced this idea that change is inevitable, that it must be recognized, and that we can no longer continue to commit such atrocities against those who are the most vulnerable in our society. The Palestinian people, of course, have been persecuted for years and years and years, but now it's front and center, and they can't hide it anymore. We're talking, at a minimum, 15,000 people have been murdered. Probably a good 7,000 plus children are part of that equation. They say that they're not going to start fighting again, but we all know what that really means until possibly Wednesday. We know that the overwhelming majority of society, not just in the United States, but around the world, disagrees with what's happening right now. But as Jen and I had briefly spoke about a little earlier today, much like our Congresswoman, Wasserman Schultz, who when you're
I wish Jen had pushed her back. I wish Jen had won that seat. I can tell you that, but I'm sorry to interrupt.
But when you're part of that power structure, even if you were in the slim minority, the thought process has always been, we have the money and we have the power. The people are not going to rise up. They're not going to do what's necessary in order to pull the power away from us, non-violently at first, but you're heading in that violent direction. I think we're hitting a watershed moment in our nation's history right now. I don't think that the working class electorate is going to take this line down anymore. That's why you are creating such an impact right now, and they're coming after you with such fervor, because they know the president is a very, very vulnerable representative as we speak. And there are many others probably in down ballot situations that may be facing that same situation. How do you foresee the dynamic unfold as we go forward into 2024?
Well, that's a tough one, because, history itself is just so unpredictable. You just don't know what's coming. Who would have thought that the Middle East would be such a central issue in the presidential campaign just a few months ago? You had people saying, well, we want to defend brother RFK Jr., and God bless him. I love the brother on my own terms and things, though. But we know the Palestinian issue is not that important, so I might disagree with him on that issue, but I agree with him on this and that. Now this becomes the major issue, and he's living in the Neolithic age.
Exactly.
On this. You see what I mean? So you just don't know. You really don't know. I think the sad thing is, it looks as if we're moving toward the possibility of early stages of a World War III with the military adventurism of the Democratic Party. It's not just the Middle East, but it's with Russia, with Ukraine, and even possibly with China, with Taiwan. And at that point, it's like living in 1913 or 14 in the 20th century in Europe, or living in 1938, 39 in the transatlantic world. Now, of course, you got the global South, and that's the majority of humankind. We must never forget their various plights and their various predicaments, but they recognize the repercussions and the implications of what's going on in those three sites vis-a-vis Latin America, Caribbean, Asia. I mean, not Asia, but I mentioned China already, but the Caribbean, Africa, and Latin America, those three very fundamental sites, because what's been going on in the Congo has been ugly. What's going on in Chad is ugly. Look at our precious gay brothers and lesbian sisters in Uganda who are being criminalized. I mean, you got resistance in Niger vis-a-vis the French. All of these things are coming together in a cacophony of events that could affect the presidential election. I'm not sure, for example, that Brother Biden is going to be around that long. I think he might do an LBJ in 68 and say, you know what? I've got to pull back. I'm running out of gas anyway. And I've talked to my kids, and I'm worried about my son and so forth. For all we know, Trump himself may be on the way to jail in ways we don't know. So then they got to go to their B teams, right? Well, who's on the B team? Oh, here come Nikki. Here come Nikki. Oh, my God. She's about as prepared to play as I am to. Well, I won't go into that right now. But then you got the Democrats, Gavin, and the sister, what's her name? Gretchen from Michigan. What are we talking about? We know how mediocre and corrupt and myopic the political class is across generation in both parties.
Yeah.
It's just that Trump becomes such an exemplary gangster that he gets a lot of attention, and Biden gets attention because he's there, but he's been beneath mediocre for a long time. He's tied to crimes against humanity vis-a-vis mass incarceration, vis-a-vis Iraq, killing 500,000 precious Iraqis. If that's not a war crime, what is? Before you even get to the enabling of a genocidal attack of Israel vis-a-vis Palestinians in Gaza, you see, so that it's just hard to know. The important thing is we got to be true to ourselves. That's the crucial thing, you see, that we got to have a love for poor and working people, those Frantz Fanon called the wretched of the earth, and we got to be true to ourselves. This is the kind of human being I choose to be between my mama's womb and tomb. This is the kind of virtues I try to enact. These are the kind of visions I have. I'm going to be tied to poor and working people, no matter what color, gender, sexual orientation, no matter what nation. Why? Because they're precious human beings, and they have fallings and faults like anybody else, but they deserve better lives. That's true in Buffalo. I love that interview you'll have with Sister India. That's true in Chicago. That's true in New York. It's true in Lagos. It's true in Guatemala right now. Now you got a right-wing brother taking over in Argentina. Oh, my God. We thought we dealt with that in Brazil. No, it shifted now to Argentina. How do we keep the sight of the possibility of poor and working class solidarity?
Yeah, I think, and one of the biggest problems is not just that we don't learn from history. I mean, that's a big part of it, like not learning from history, but we're not all even dealing with the same set of history. So it makes it very hard to discuss combating problems with people when they refuse to acknowledge what caused the problems. So when you have the Democratic Party, for example, pointing at Trump and saying, well, he's the fascist. First of all, everyone loves labels and names. You know that. Like, so he's this or whatever he is, as if that's the source of all of our problems is him. And nobody in their midst wants to take a look at the neoliberalism that leads to the fascism. And so I feel like the best you're going to get from that perspective, the best you're going to get are Band-Aids, because they refuse to deal with the root of the problem. And so it really doesn't matter. I guess the difference between Democrats and Republicans is how big of a Band-Aid you get, or, you know, like, I don't know, but they're not dealing with the issue. So it's not going to stop.
That's very true. And you see it in their practice. You see it in their deeds. You know, the proof is always in the pudding and the eating of the pudding.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.